Welcome, everybody, to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest with me today. I have Matt Van Itallie, who is the founder and CEO of SEMA. He's done some amazing things. He's got and developed the comprehensive code-based scans, which is thorough and easily understandable assessment of code-based engineering. He was also in private equity as an operating exec, used to work at McKinsey, has done some really unique things in terms of hiking a third of the Appalachian Trail, biking from Boston to Seattle. Now he's trying to change the world and create a new category. Matt, welcome. Happy to have you on the show, man.
What a great introduction, Ryan. Thank you so much. I'm so psyched to be here.
Yes, I'm pumped too, man. Like we were nerding out a little bit about some Gen AI stuff in the pre-show. And so before we get too deep into anything, we'd like to do a real quick kind of revenue rundown in terms of where you're at in the stage of the journey. So where are you guys at in terms of your revenue?
Sure. We have two products. One, our AI product is recently launched earlier this year, and our second product, we're at say that again. We have two products. Our code scans product is at the mature stage of revenue, some very solid growth that we're very excited about. And then earlier this year, we launched a new product for Gen AI code analysis, and that's in the early high growth stage.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, love that. How big is your team? Are you private equity backed, VC backed, or bootstrap? Would love to hear those details as well.
Sure, there's about 35 of us. We're a global remote first team, and we are backed by VCs.
Okay, excellent, man. And then as we're talking, like, what's your primary go-to-market strategy for growing the business?
Sure. So it's a little bit different for the two sides. So the code scans business, you can kind of think of it like a home inspection. So like a home inspection, it's you look at the roof, the floor, the plumbing, etc. Our code scans look at code quality and team and cyber and security. So all of those things. And also like a home inspection, it is typically done during the buying and selling, in this case, buying and selling of software companies. The go-to-market for that is building trust-based partnerships with repeat acquirers who are typically later stage. We're honored to serve many of the top and middle market private equity firms, and deep relationships with advisory firms who we support them and they support a much broader set of customers. On the Gen AI code tool, the AI Code Monitor, our customer base is CTOs, and typically CTOs at private equity-backed companies. And that go-to-market is conversations and education and, frankly, referrals from the folks who know us really well from our first product.
Love that, man. The referral motion is one of the most underrated motions that is not tapped into. So happy to hear that you're leveraging it, especially with such an expansive investor network that you're working with. I didn't even plan on talking about this, but that's why I love the show, man. So like
Love
any
it.
great referral-led growth strategies that you've leveraged that you see working really well in the business right now?
Well, I will let you in on a secret. We have a extremely fancy referral program. I hope your audience can hear me winking a little bit. We don't really advertise it, but now your audience is the first to hear our secret plan. When folks make a referral, I'm based in Baltimore, Maryland. We send them a box of Baltimore's best cookies, burger cookies. They are half shortbread and half chocolate frosting, 100% sugar rush. They are so amazing. Of course, so what is this business, the CodeScan business? It is understanding, are we making the right decision on $10 million, $100 million, multi-billion dollar budget? That reference is so crucial. Like, you're never going to do something that you're not 110% behind. So we think it's appropriate to have a very small thank you because we know it's their reputations on the line when they make referrals. But our cookie plan, once folks hear about it, our satisfied customers are not opposed to having tins of cookies sent to them.
I love that. So I've never heard of burger cookies. Like, is that, you said burger, like hamburger?
Yeah,
like
BERGER. Amazing. Okay. Shout out to them. I do not get a commission. I say this out of love. They're absolutely the best.
Then what's your hit rate with the cookie drop? Because this is earth breaking news, but it's got to be high if you keep doing it.
Exactly. So we only do it. I've never told anyone that we have this policy. We only do it after they refer. And so I guess a pretty high percentage of people that we've sent cookies to, all of them have already made at least one referral, also refer again a second time. So we're pretty satisfied with it.
Dude, love that. So yeah, it's funny. So I've helped companies implement referral led growth systems in their business, and like there's a lot of different ways you could do it. Like did you know that Tesla actually got a third of their Model S sales from a referral program?
That's amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah. And like they just, I don't know, it was last year, they just stopped doing it because they didn't need to do it anymore, but they were on like version 9 of it. And so they got like hyper creative with doing that. And then Dropbox got 30% of their customers from it. I think Slack got like 97% of their customers from referrals. So it's insanely good. So awesome that you mentioned that. I am going to look at the burger cookies as well. I think that's absolutely amazing. So let's shift gears a little bit, man. I think like obviously you have a really unique perspective in terms of the industry and space you're looking at. Like, what do you see is because and this relates to almost like everything, right? You got the code scan, you got like the Gen AI code checker, right? And I don't mean to dumb down what you're doing. I'm
Yeah,
sure
no,
it's
exactly right. Exactly right.
massively more involved than that, but that's an overly simplified way to explain it. So, like, why is this such a big interest and reason on the PE side for what you do? Because like I don't see a lot of people talking about this, and there's obviously a massive market for it. I'm getting signals from PE on different ends, so I'd be curious on your side.
Yeah. I'm a really big fan of the way that private equity done right can really help improve organizational outcomes. Obviously, every industry has some pros and cons, but having that real focus on a tight connection between ownership and management, in my experience, can really lead to some exceptional business outcomes. And I think the result of that is you see private equity-backed companies, especially backed by the best companies, being really thoughtful, not just like a quarter by quarter view, but a multi-year horizon about things that really matter. And you see that in their thoughtful way that they're investing in ESG, but also things like getting ahead of risks. And I honestly believe, when I think about our customer base, they are incredibly well incentivized to be thinking ahead about risks that matter, about opportunities that matter, and really capture them and really reduce that risk. And I just could not be more grateful to work with folks who are forward thinking, but also incredibly practical. And so the code checker, as you said, the Gen AI code checker came from them, and their strong predictions about where the market is going. And as you know, what an incredible honor to serve customers who trust you enough to tell you what you should build next. That's couldn't be more grateful for that.
I mean, yeah, obviously you're doing some amazing work if you have people openly just asking you like, hey man, like and trust, right? So burger cookies or
Exactly.
not, like something you're doing is working right if they're telling you that. So like, how did you? Because like it's funny, I've spoken to a lot of go to market leaders, CEOs, and there's different folks I know that have strategies for integrating themselves into the whole PE ecosystem. Like, what have you done to do that? Because it sounds like you're in pretty deep. It sounds like you have built a lot of trust there. So like what's been your go-to playbook for that and how have you executed it?
Sure. I would say that serving private equity is not for the faint of heart. They are very skeptical, they are very cost conscious, and they are very, I'd say, exclusively, maniacally, fanatically committed to ROI. Uh, I love that because it's a real challenge. Because if you have sold into them, it means you're really doing something of value. We have succeeded in part. I mean, it starts and ends with product. It is, are we building a product that meets the functional and the non-functional requirements they need? So we work in technical due diligence. It needs to be exactly right. It needs to be under extreme time pressure and with very minimal involvement from the code owner, from the target. And then it's really high touch service and the best possible customer support we can provide. And then most certainly relying on referrals. So if you um, win the trust of a company in a portfolio, they talk to each other. They very much see themselves as a network. And so hand-to-hand combat to prove ourselves to one or two or three portfolio companies, and they've spread the word when they've seen the value to their peers and to the deal teams and operating partners.
That's awesome. Yeah, obviously a lot of good advice there. Basic, straightforward, but very smart that most people are not executing on is what I would say. You know what I mean? So it's simple, but it's hard, right? Along those lines. So
Exactly. Like so much of business, simple to say, hard to do at the level of excellence that it really requires.
well, so let's talk about this, Matt. So, like, obviously, there's a proliferation of open source models, AI models that are out there. There's, massive acceleration in terms of the large language models, like the Claude releasing artifacts to make it simple for even someone like me to use code, even though that's not my expertise or level, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's good code or anything like that, but you know, I guess. And then there's also other ones like Jace is supposed to be coming out. There's other like automated agents, if you will, that are code design, and then on top of it, we have groups of agents like Crew and other areas coming out. So I guess like this is a lot flying at people from a code perspective. With everything moving so fast, like how is this affecting your business in terms of trying to do code checking? And then at the same time, is this creating like massive panic for folks that are looking at companies when they're trying to do their due diligence on code, or what's going on there?
Yeah, for sure. So most certainly, we're absolute proponents of using AI, where it makes sense to increase productivity and job satisfaction. And for us, coders using it is probably number one on the list in terms of how much more productive they can be, and and also while being quite satisfied because it helps avoid some of the routine work. It lets them experiment faster, etc. And Ryan, you said a moment ago, open source, and that is such a powerful analogy for us for thinking about Gen AI. Open source is code that the coders didn't write, but they use it. It makes them
Mhm.
more productive. It helps them avoid um, some of the more boring work and the reinventing the wheel, and it comes with organizational risk. And that analogy is exactly true for Gen AI code. People didn't write it; they put it into a prompt, the instructions, but the LLM wrote it. It makes them more productive developers. It avoids work that they don't enjoy, and and it comes with organizational risk, security, IP risk, exit risk, etc. And so that rise in this market, the rise in the use of coders using Gen AI is the reason for our Gen AI code checker. And I would say, our investors are smart. Nobody's panicking, but they want to know the truth. They want to
Mhm.
know how much is there. Is it the right? Is it being used enough to get the productivity gains? Is it being used safely and responsibly so there's not extra risk built in? And so, we're honored to lead the way, frankly, to help some of the, already a meaningful portion of the world's best investors are now checking for Gen AI Gen AI code levels in their code, not out of panic, but because they know that they need to get this risk management right, because it will be, in the blink of an eye, people will understand that they have to manage their ingredients list of Gen AI code just like they manage their ingredients list of open source code today.
Okay. So I'm going to hit you with two fascinating questions because we're almost up on time and I want to make sure we get to them because they're like right there.
You
So
got it.
number one is like, what are you seeing as the sweet spot of amount of like Gen AI code created for a product if you had to identify the percentage?
Sure. It should be at least 10% of the code and likely no more than 25%.
Really? Okay, that's lower than I thought it would be. And obviously that's for IP purposes, security and other areas like are those the primary drivers?
That's right. It's
Okay.
going to go up over time, but that's definitely the safe place to start. If you're working on a prototype, maybe it can be a higher percentage, but And of course, there's exceptions to go higher, but we certainly, as a starting point, if you're less than that, I'd want every team to get to 10 to 25%, certainly by the end of the year.
Okay. And then what would you say are the three biggest mistakes people make or organizations make when they're deploying Gen AI code or trying to use generative AI to code, I should say?
Okay. I have two, and as I answer them, I'll think of the third. Number one is not buying licenses, enterprise level licenses for their teams, because if folks are bringing an individual license to work, it means that your trade secrets are walking out the door because that data can then be used for training. So give every knowledge worker, give everybody at least one, probably more than one tool because of the things that Claude can do that's different from Copilot, et cetera. Make sure they have an enterprise level license. I think that's one. Second, I would really celebrate the experimentation. There are and this is true for coding, but it's true in so many areas. There are so many different things that Gen AI could do. Before we're prescriptive on how to do it, just have people try, share lessons, encourage, whether it's hackathons or the Slack channel, just encourage it. And then number three, this is really micro, but I think it's super important. I know many developers and many teams who are a little bit worried about, they're having the identity conversation. Oh, if I'm using Gen AI, am I really a real coder? And this is my secret hack, which I'm now telling everybody. Just replace the word Gen AI with open source. Are you a real developer if you use open source? Of course I am. Like, why on earth would I rebuild a framework when it's available? That would be freaking nuts. My job is to think of the right question to ask, think of the right way to answer it, and apply the set of tools available. Well, guess what? Exactly freaking the same as Gen AI. It's just an extension of the developer tools that came for it. So anyone out there, your developers are worried about it, let me give them the open source lecture, and hopefully I can persuade them to try it better.
All right. Matt Van Itallie, ladies and gentlemen, where can people find you? Where can they find out more about SEMA? And then we'll wrap things up.
Awesome. We're at semasoftware.com, SEMA software. You can find me on LinkedIn, Matt Van Itallie, and any message on our website will get to me eventually if you ask for MVI. So go for it.
Love that. Well, thanks for being on the show. Next episode, so we're doing a part 2. We are going to talk about an AI advisory council, how to create that internally. Matt's going to approach it from the tech side. I'm going to approach it more from the white collar work or the business side. When I say white collar, I don't want to exclude coders from that, but non-coders versus coders, right? We're going to attack it. So thanks for joining me today, Matt. It was awesome. And it was a pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
And I will see you on the next episode.